All right, for today's deep dive, we're looking at the strategy needed to counter modern violent extremism. Our sources call it a vulgarization of Islamic normative doctrines. And our mission is to unpack this four-level framework that's meant to be a whole of society approach.
Right. It's about moving from just patching things up to a real long-term cure. And what's fascinating here is that this is really an internal challenge. Extremism is actively, undermining the deep humanistic tradition in Islam.
Mm-hmm.
So to fix it, you have to hit all four levels at once. The symptoms, the environment, the institutions, and this is the big one, the core legal foundation.
Okay, so let's start with level one, the immediate threats. Symptomatic interventions. We're talking about individuals who are already radicalized.
Mm-hmm.
You see different de-radicalization models, like the Saudi PRACE program. It's very top-down, prison-based, all about religious re-education.
And even they admit the recidivism rates are high, sometimes up to 20% for some groups.
Right.
But then you contrast that with, say, the Singapore model, the religious rehabilitation group. It's seen as highly successful, and the originality is really the key. It's a holistic, long-term strategy.
And it uses respected independent scholars, the ustads, right?
Exactly. And, crucially, it provides support for the entire family of the person detained, not just the individual.
But this brings us to a huge structural flaw, and it pulls us straight into the other levels. Most state-run programs, they just fail, don't they?
They do, because of the massive legitimacy gap.
If the government itself is seen as corrupt or has a poor human rights record, its message has zero credibility.
Precisely. And that legitimacy gap, that's level two. The environmental push factors. If you don't tackle state repression, youth unemployment, all the authoritarian policy failure.
Like the sectarian governance that helped fuel a group like ISIS.
Exactly. The social contract is broken.
Yeah.
And so your level one fixes, they just turn into surveillance, they stigmatize people, and they end up creating new reasons for people to radicalize.
Okay, so if the environment level 2 is the fuel, we have to skip to level 4 to find the antidote, the core cure.
Right. The jurisprudential restoration. Extremists lean so heavily on these problematic medieval precedents, specifically the dhimmi system.
Which offered protection, but also enforced a very clear social hierarchy. Things like the jizya tax.
Yes. So the way to get legitimacy back is to bypass that medieval framework entirely and go back to the Prophet's original foundational document, the 7th century Charter of Medina.
Okay.
That charter created a covenant of mutual defense. It defined Jews and Muslims as one community with the believers. It was all based on a contract, not a hierarchy.
And that's where it gets really powerful for today. That ancient foundation, it gives theological weight to the modern world. Tell us about the Marrakesh Declaration.
The 2016 Marrakesh Declaration is the big modern theological move. It takes its inspiration directly from the Charter of Medina, and it connects that original pluralistic idea with international human rights law. It essentially authors the concept of equal contractual citizenship as a genuinely authentic Islamic principle. It theologically makes the old dhimmi system obsolete.
So that theological authority from level 4, that becomes the engine for level 3, which is institutional reform. You see that in things like the Charter of Makkah, which is basically this huge pan-Islamic manifesto against extremism. Without the Charter of Medina as a defense, level 3 is just, policy that can't be enforced.
Absolutely. The whole thing is integrated. You need the theology from level 4 to make the institutions in level 3 legitimate.
Yeah.
And you have to fix the environmental problems in level 2 before any of your symptomatic fixes in level 1 can possibly work. They're all connected.
So the core takeaway for you listening is this. Getting rid of extremism for good demands two things at the same time. First, the political will to actually heal the socioeconomic failures, those level 2 push factors. And second, the theological authority that comes from going back to the Charter of Medina.
Which leaves you with a really important question to think about. Even a prestigious institution like Al-Azhar, it has this dual nature. It affirms tolerance, but it also keeps medieval texts that promote intolerance on the curriculum. If the most authoritative voices are afraid that questioning this heritage will undermine their own standing, well, what risk does that institutional paralysis pose to this entire integrated framework we've been talking about?